Elizabeth Warren obviously understands killing and murder and shooting somebody in the back is totally unacceptable. But what I think has happened in the last few months is that what you have seen rising up is people's anger at a health insurance industry which denies people the health care that they desperately need while they make billions and billions of dollars in profit.
That's Vermont Senator and professional lazy person Bernie Sanders attempting to defend Elizabeth Warren for justifying the fatal attack on United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Welcome to Nurk News, I'm Nurkish, and it looks like the Democrat Party is really struggling to find an identity after the humiliating loss of Kamala Harris, and some members have decided to go all in again on radical socialist populism, namely Elizabeth Warren, who decided recently that instead of using Thompson's death to push for gun control, it'd be a good idea to use it to push for healthcare reform.
We've been talking a lot about this Luigi Mangione, the case about the United Healthcare CEO. People are very angry at United Healthcare, I think for good reason, denying care. And the whole system, and we were just talking in the previous block, killing a CEO is not the way you change. You have to regulate that, right? And so we've got attempts to try to rein in some of these big businesses. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was your creation. The Trump administration wants to get rid of it. That is like protecting people from like credit card fraud. What happens if that goes away?
So look, what happens when you turn this into the billionaires run it all is they get the opportunity to squeeze every last penny. And look, we'll say it over and over. Violence is never the answer. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of United Health. But you can only push people so far. And then they start to take matters into their own hands.
It's funny how Democrats seem to be comfortable attributing motive to nearly everything they object to, but for some reason with this case, they make a point to say allegedly. I mean, what Warren is doing here is really sketchy and highlights the selective and performative outrage of the left. Because apparently guns aren't a big deal when they're being used for something politically advantageous for Democrats. The real surprising thing here is that even CNN slammed Warren's segment and Sanders' defense of her.
Fallout from the murder investigation of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, the office of New York Governor Kathy Hochul is convening a safety summit tomorrow between nervous business leaders and law enforcement. CNN has learned the safety concerns among executives are so widespread, New York State may create a special hotline just for CEOs to call in threats. Bernie Sanders, the senator, says he could see this coming. This is definitely something that obviously has a lot of business community talking, but clearly the sympathy level from the American public is not terribly high.
Clearly not. And what you're seeing is a little bit, I think, Elizabeth Warren, Chris Murphy, Bernie Sanders listening way too much to the online left and stacking these answers as we've seen, especially over the weekend with, yes, this was bad, and then, but, and then positioning into some healthcare policy debate. Chris Murphy was the one who did it last night in this kind of weird homemade video. He's trying to, I think, the senator from Connecticut is trying to start a populist revolution, which is very interesting. But you're right, like they are just very lost on this right now, Democrats, and they are just trying to shoehorn a policy argument into a cold-blooded murder, and it boggles my mind.
Anytime you have to have but after a statement that's about a cold-blooded murder in broad daylight, there is a problem. And these statements are gross and abhorrent, and they should not be out there. Two things can be true, right? This is a murder that is horrible and awful, and there also could be a need for a policy debate. Do not use a cold-blooded murder to have that policy debate. It is gross that they are doing that.
And you know what the tell is really quick also? Like Chris Murphy's career-defining issue is gun violence and gun control. Not once in this video did he talk about gun control at all.
And
right?
It was
ghost guns. Exactly.
Which there's been policies made about ghost guns in this administration.
Exactly, right? Like that. That's the biggest tell.
You know, it's clear that there's a bit of a crisis going on with Democrats right now, with people like Warren and Sanders once again placing their bets on the fringe far left, where the motto seems to be let the ends justify the means. The ironic thing here is that Thompson was apparently trying to reform things to a value-based model that focused more on outcomes over number of procedures. Regardless, though, we all know that wouldn't have mattered anyway. He could have quadrupled the number of approvals and they'd still be trying to justify his death. Because despite what they say, what they ultimately crave is power and control, and no amount of capitulation will ever be enough for them. But let me know what you think. Will the Democrat Party move to the social populism of Sanders and Warren by the next election? If so, does that change things for Republicans? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye.